The pleasure-pain balance is an important concept to understand in relation to motivation, habits, experience, and addiction. So in this video, I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to get into it really quickly. When pain exceeds pleasure, that is experienced as craving. Now, craving occurs when we are triggered by a cue in our environment that we relate to an established association in our memory that we desire to attain. So we have the cue, then we have the desire, and within this time frame, we have our dopamine spike. But because it takes effort and requirement and work to attain our object of desire, our dopamine drops below baseline after the initial desire. And this is experienced as pain. As the pain exceeds the initial pleasure, the dopamine drops below the baseline, and now we have a craving. And that's why craving is painful, because our dopamine has actually dropped below what it was before we desired anything in the first place. So the pain comes from a lack of dopamine that follows this initial cycle that I just told you about. Now, what can we do about it? Well, things aren't supposed to be easy in life. As we're in a constant state of condition response due to the availability of digital distractions and dopamine at our fingertips with the black mirror of a cell phone in the palm of our hands, we often feel this pain and pleasure and craving stimulus response cycle all throughout the day. Because at any moment we can just turn to the phone to alleviate that pain that we feel when we're craving a rise in the dopamine. Now, how do we offset this, or how do we correct this unnatural mechanism of dopamine stimulus reward that's never faced any prior generation, any generation in humanity prior to the digital era? Well, we need to buffer stimulus and response. So when we get a stimulus in our environment, we shouldn't reach for the phone. We shouldn't try to find an avenue to stimulate the release of dopamine through a digital mechanism, through cell phones, internet, social media. We should rather put space and time. So we need temporal distance, which is time, and then physical spatial distance. Now, if we have our cell phone, studies show us that having our cell phones in our pocket or our immediate vicinity while we're studying or trying to attend to a singular task, our working memory drops. And working memory is an aspect of intelligence. There's verbal comprehension, spatial awareness, working memory, and processing speed. So we're actually lowering our IQ by having the readily available dopamine reward in the palm of our hands. If we apply the space, the putting space and distance between the stimulus and the response, or the stimulus and the reward, we can take our cell phone and put it in another room, lock it in a drawer, and we bind our use with social media. We take social media off our phone, and we only go on social media when we're sitting at our desktop computer, or maybe we're on our laptop at home. But when we're out working through the day, or we're out at school, and we're going for walks, and we're out in the world, we don't have social media on our cell phone, so we bind our activity, we put a boundary around the social media use so that we have space between our stimulus and response. To apply the space or the distance of time and stimulus response, well, we can bind our use of the technology, social media, to a certain time of the day. Maybe we allow ourselves 30 minutes a day before bed to check social media, which I don't think is a good time. We should probably do it earlier in the day so we don't get that blue light in our eyes before we go to sleep, because that inhibits the release of melatonin and interferes with our sleep. But what if we relegate 45 minutes to an hour after school, after work, to check social media, and then we're done with it? That's another way we put time in between stimulus and response. Or say we're on Amazon and we get a trigger to buy something. Where something looks flashy to us, we want to buy something. For me, it's always books. I always want to buy new books. So I add the books into my cart and I have an impulse to purchase. But I tell myself, I'm going to wait 24 hours. I'm not going to buy this now. I'm going to sleep on it, wake up tomorrow, and if I still want to buy it, then I'll buy it. Well, the thing is, when I wake up the next day, I usually don't want to buy it anymore because I realize that it's just an impulse that I want to satiate because the craving is for the dopamine that I get when I hit the buy button on Amazon and that feel-good sensation of I got a new book on the way. So really what I'm craving is that dopamine hit from purchasing the book rather than reading the book itself. So by putting 24 hours in between the impulse, the stimulus, and the response or the reward, which is buying the book, I actually don't even partake in that behavior of buying the book and fulfilling the impulse in the first place. So that's how we can bind our behavior with time. So either with distance or with time, we can become more consciously aware of how we use social media and become informed in our habits and our technological use. So I hope this video finds you well. Give me a like and subscribe, and check out this video for more.